And a very good day to you. I hope this video finds you having a wonderful day. Welcome to Chapter 6, Project Planning, the Schedule, and Budget. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll look at the content that we're going to cover in this lecture series. First of all, we're going to talk about Gantt charts, developing a project network diagram, utilizing those as we work to find the critical path of a project. So the critical path being the longest and most important path that we really focus on, that we audit, that we manage throughout a project. Some of the other deliverables may be able to change, but it is really the critical path, that longest path through the project, that we tend to focus on and manage. We'll look at developing a PERT chart in its basics. We'll describe the concept of proceeding diagramming, finish to start, start to finish. We'll talk about those just briefly. Then we're going to jump into critical chain management, and finally we'll end with the project budget, which of course is very important. It's all about the money. If you're familiar, Boeing I use Boeing as an example. You know, their 737 MAX, and that project and the cost overruns and the billions that they're looking to borrow to get that project back on track. This is going to be the first time that Boeing in a decade has shown a loss to their investors. So that's kind of a big deal. And that project has a lot to do with it. So schedule, budget development. You know, the project schedule can be determined based upon the task and time estimates in the work breakdown structure. Again, you know, that's the document. We've looked at all the work. Now it's time to put that work into a schedule and give that schedule a budget that we're going to be able to do the work with. Now that budget, of course, you know, covers the cost of the technology we're going to implement, any hardware, any software. In the case of an IT project, it's going to cover the resources, the human resources, and the cost of having those human resources on the project. Any tangible, intangible costs, we'll look at all of those in at the end of this lecture series. Okay, so we can determine this based on the resources that are listed in the work breakdown structure. So of course we've tried to break down that work breakdown structure into manageable pieces that the work can get done on realistically, the resources that are needed for that, when we can go ahead and celebrate our accomplishments with milestones, what those milestones detail. Now remember, the milestones are not, yay, we finished the prototype. It is, yay, we finished the prototype and the customer accepted it, and thus that portion is finished. That's the key. Iterations may still be necessary. Again, as we go through this process, the more time we spend planning, the less time we're going to spend in implementation, the less opportunity there is for scope creep, for scope leap, for all those things that are going to take our project off schedule. Now, I will remind you, you haven't heard me say this lately, but in every component, so we finished the work breakdown structure. That may be a milestone that we want to celebrate. I would suggest celebrating after the part that we create the budget, we create the schedule, and we're ready to do that, you know, project kickoff, if you will, when we're ready to do the work. That's a great time to celebrate what we've accomplished thus far, okay? Now, as we talk about this, we've got to make sure that we're creating realistic schedules and realistic budgets, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, the MOV, of course, supports the scope. The scope is broken down into phases. Those phases are broken down into tasks that are manageable. You know, that can be that smallest component within a task is the sequence that the task needs to be done, the resources that that task is going to need, and the time estimates. And we do those and include those in the master schedule. And of course the budget. So how much are those resources going to cost us? Remember, time is money. So consequently, time that we put into a project is going to need to be included in that budget as well. We're taking those human resources away from their daily activities, and thus we need to include those resource costs into the budget. Okay, and then of course schedules play in from the fact that people take vacations, people are sick, timelines in getting software, in implementing servers, in propping up cloud environments that can support our project. So of course, there's a lot of great project management tools. And as we talk about project management tools, we really want to focus on graphical representation of the projects. And the reason being, if you've ever worked in Excel and you've had a bunch of data, the easiest way to present the data is not in the form of data, but in charts and graphs that factually represent the data. And as you know, depending on how we create those charts and graphs, we can actually tell a very different story on the same factual data. Okay, so we want to do that here. Now, when we talk about ease of viewing, Gantt charts are a really great way to represent to high-level people. This could be our governance committee on a project. This can be our customer, etc. They don't need the detail. They just need to see the overall project. And a Gantt chart works really great for that. If you're looking for how to create a Gantt chart, Microsoft Excel, we don't need some sort of customized software to do this, like Microsoft Project or Flow or projectmanagement.com for you Mac folks. All we need is Excel. And my associate, Ralph Phillips, has a great video out on YouTube. If you go out and search Ralph Phillips, create a Gantt chart in Excel, you'll find a video that has well over 1 million hits in regards to how to do that. So if you have a spreadsheet application such as Excel or Google Sheets, you can do this as well. Okay, but the key here is to create something that's easily read and that we can put our timeline on. So here's an example of a 4-week project, pretty simple, where it sits, the different colors. This is how much has been completed. This is how much still needs to be completed. As you can see, we have an overlap in some of these tasks, which means we don't have to complete this one. They're not sequential. They're not necessarily exactly concurrent like these 4 here are concurrent. We're starting them at the same time, but notice we have some dependencies that list for next steps. Okay, so as we talk about this, we're going to go through these basics. We're going to look at an Aon, I call it Aon activity on node. We're going to look at critical path analysis, program evaluation, review techniques, PERT. This is what I like from a technical standpoint. This is what I tend to use when it comes to my technical team. So keep in mind that I will create Gantt charts for the non-technical folks. This may be my customer, just showing them where we are. I'm going to put I like to use a big red line. This is where we are today so that we can quickly analyze what's ahead of schedule, what might be behind schedule, and what we need to manage. So let's go ahead and move on. Here's an example of a basic Gantt chart. So if you notice, we have a task. That task is broken down into subtasks. Again, we can do this in Microsoft Excel, just utilizing coloring. If you notice, we have weeks or days, or percent complete that we can look at. So I like the percent complete. It makes an easy way to view how much of that particular subtask and overall task is complete. Okay, now the only thing missing here would be a line, and I'll show you an example of that here in a minute, a line of where we are in the project, what's been done, what needs to be done. Okay, so this is a nice example of a basic Gantt chart. As you can see, it is easy to read. We can see that we've started tasks in task 3 and some subtask stuff. We're not very far on that. That is most likely very independent, non-dependent on the previous task. If it was dependent, then we're going to need to complete this or be closer to completion before we start a dependent task. So keep that in mind. So here's another example. It also shows the idea of start to finish, finish to start, finish to finish. What I would suggest is, if you notice finish to finish, where we are within some of these subtasks, take a minute, go ahead and pause this video, look at each primary element, look at the supporting elements or the supporting tasks. You'll notice here's where we are today, so we can see that as we look at today, we are behind overall. This is probably what's putting us behind. We have yet to complete this. So a start to start, we started these together. Finish to start, meaning that this needs to finish, before this starts, and then finish to finish. So you get the idea of just some basic progress elements within a project. So as we talk about activity analysis, I'm going to use this same project throughout the idea of looking at different graphical representations. What we're doing here is we're starting with a basic table. We have activities A through J. We have a description of those activities, and I'm going to keep those descriptions throughout so you can keep in mind. We have estimated duration in days. That's work days, so that's going to be an 8-hour work day. Okay. Now keep in mind, as we look at these Gantt charts, we are looking at work weeks. Okay, so consequently, how we're doing in that week based on work days, 5 work days, 40 work hours. Most of the time we use work days or portions of work days. So if we know it's going to take a half a day, we would just put 0.5. Then there's the predecessors, and we'll get a graphical representation of this, which I'm sure will help you understand that in order to start B, A must precede it, it must complete, and then in order to start C, B must be done, D, B must be done, E, B must be done, F, C and D must precede F. Okay, so let me give you an example of this from a graphical representation. Now, what I've done here, this is not, excuse me, this is not a formal way of doing this, and what I mean is it's not standard. If you notice, I just have our activity. I'm going to pause for a minute. But that this is actually something that I will do with the project. So if you notice, I have my activity. Next to it, I've put the days just so I can represent that. Now, there is a much better technical way to do that, and we're going to get to that in a sub video, which is creating PERT charts. Okay. PERT charts have all the pertinent technical data, and again, we can create a PERT chart for based on the overall work breakdown structure, and then we can do subcharts for each task with the subtasks so that we can see the critical path through the whole project as well as the critical path through the subtasks. Okay, and so we would associate that and create that graphical representation. So what I've done here is just basically created a flow chart that shows the activity ID A through J, the number of days, and then the description just to make it easy for you to see. So as we go through this, let's now spend a little more time going through this. As you can see, the predecessor for B is A. The predecessor for C, D, and E, C, D, and E are B. Okay, and then we get down and we go to F, and the predecessor for F is actually just C and D, which means we're going to need to complete or be partially through C and D before completing F. Now, sometimes what you might want to do, if we can actually start F with C and D partially completed, maybe it's software testing is F, right? Test web pages. And we can actually start the testing before the design and the setup of the server are complete. Okay, so maybe there's some prototype or storyboard testing that we want to do before we test the actual software, the actual pages. In which case, what I sometimes will do is put a gap here, put these in there so that we can see that there can be an overlap. Okay, but there's still going to be some predecessor. We're still going to want to have these arrows. So what I would suggest you do at this point is go ahead and pause. This is a great time to stop this video as part. We'll take this up in the next part. I hope you have a great day. I hope to see you back for the next part. Take a minute, go ahead and pause before you stop the video and just walk through the activity, the days, and the predecessor, and you'll get a better idea. Take some time to practice. This is that time. Take care.